Didn't want to do this tonight. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. The League 2 Lowdown. Yeah, hi, I'm Jordan Richards. I'm with Luke Payne and Tom Woods. Well, how are you guys first? Because I'll be honest, I'm not fine.
I don't know what you're talking about. Football's great.
It's not.
It's great.
It's a beautiful game.
Total rubbish. I can't think of anything worse at this point.
Do you want to get it out of the way?
No. Well, yeah, I do, but well, yeah. Well, look, I've already been moaning to you lot about 5 minutes before a press recording about penalties, really. But look, I guess we'll run through the games that took place last night. Of course, Tuesday night there was 4 games. 2 of them had a fair bit of importance. The other 2 probably not so much. But other than that, we've got a bit to talk about as we've got our first relegated team from League One. There'll probably be another one tonight as we are recording on a Wednesday and Northampton are playing, but we'll mention that in a little bit. Big news regarding Colchester, which we'll probably touch on. The second time we've mentioned them and takeover this season, but with a different consortium this time, with a pretty experienced player, certainly from this country. We'll, of course, do our quick fire predictions at the end, and, of course, we'll get on to Luke's brain teaser. Of course, he's back for this one, so he can share it. Last night, Christ. Let's get our game out of the way, over and done with. Obviously, a big game at the top of the table in the playoff chasing pack. Chesterfield and Grimsby. Of course, this was one of our games in hand. Away at Chesterfield, they've been on a pretty decent run at the minute. They've had a few wins here and there. Got a bit of an iffy draw against Tranmere the other day, but you sort of sense that they probably won't want that sort of game again against us. Of course, we was coming into it after beating Crewe the other day as well, and the Spirex beat us 2-1 really. Look, 2 pretty quick goals in the first half. We've been caught napping really, both from just complete switch offs, defensive relapses really, which have allowed Liam Mandeville and Lee Bonus to score very quickly. Obviously did pull one back just before half time through Jay's Cabia, and in the second half, I mean, look, we got that goal just before the half time whistle. You're sort of thinking, right, okay, our tails are up, even though we were sort of holding on even after that goal near the end of the half. You're thinking, right, let's get in at half time, let's sort of regroup, and let's get trying to go and attack the second half. We had one shot from what I would call in the second half, really, and to be fair, I mean, it was the chance in which Andy Cook hit the bar, but I mean, look, we get given that golden chance. What was it, 93rd, 94th minute, in which John Odinasian takes down Justin Amaluzor in the box. We get given a penalty, so of course we go and miss it because that's what we do this season. Rhys Staunton stepped up. I thought at the time it was a pretty weak penalty. It wasn't actually too bad, to be fair. But I think it was, at the same time, I think you probably look at Ryan Boot as well. Pretty good save for him, to be fair. And Chesterfield walk away with a huge 3 points. Now, I've got my thoughts about it. I'll pass it over to Luke and Tom first before I sort of say my bit. I'm conscious I don't really want to go on a tangent about it, but I've also got some thoughts of my own that I want to share, but I want to hear your guys' thoughts first.
Yeah, I'll go for it. I mean, I won't dwell too much on the entire game, because I know most of you guys were watching this, whereas I chose to go watch the Oldham Barrow game instead. But from what I kind of gathered, it's just a case of you gave yourselves too much to do. In games like this, it's so important to start well. And we discussed that a lot over the weekend's results actually as well. When you had first versus second, third versus fourth, you have to start on it in these situations, and unfortunately, it's not falling your way, and you've ended up having to fight back in to try and get into the game. And I suppose the positive is that you did get some sort of reaction, and you were at least, in a situation where it was only one goal, it was possible to get it back. And the fact you had the penalty as well, that's probably just the biggest frustration of it. And that's what I am going to talk about a little bit more, just because I have a very kind of clear idea of how I feel like it should work with when it comes to penalty takers. It should be a case of, right, beginning of the season, I know who my taker is, regardless of when it is in the game, who's on the pitch, whatever. That's my number one taker. They take the penalties. And I appreciate with Grimsby, that was Cabia, and he went and missed about 3 in a row or something. So fair enough, take him off it, but that's why you have a pecking order. So it should fall down to the second person. That's your penalty taker from now on. That's it. And if you get January signings, whatever, anything like that, if they're a good penalty taker, great, drip them into the pecking order wherever is appropriate. There shouldn't be this whole sort of, you take one and you take one, and you might miss, but go on, take one anyway. Like, there needs to be a clear idea of who's taking penalties and when. I know you, Jordan, you've mentioned off air that you guys had decided before the game, but for me, that's not enough. I feel like you could easily be far more prepared for this. But it's just like, right, this is our take of this season. Like, I don't know, Charles Burnham, someone like that, Kieran Green, players that know where the goal is. I know Burnham's taken a couple and he's missed one of them, but more often than not, he'll probably put it away, right? So, and especially he was on the pitch, just let him have it, right? Surely.
Tom, what about you, mate?
I think on the penalties front, I get the frustration. You should just know who it is, right? There should be none of this stuff. I mean, maybe free kicks, there can be a discussion, but a penalty is just, you've got the boy who takes a penalty. For me, it should, unless you've got a captain who is particularly good or a set piece specialist, should just be the number 9. It should always just be whoever the 9 on the pitch is. They should be your best finisher, really. So I know that Cook's maybe not the best penalty taker historically, but I don't know why he's not taking a penalty. It seems a bit silly. But like you said, it was a good penalty save. It's not as if he skied it, which is one thing. So it wasn't awful. And I think the story of the game is that Grimsby left themselves too much to do. Sometimes it's that simple. They left themselves too much to do, and they didn't. I mean, Chesterfield did all right. To be fair, Chesterfield held them at bay. It can feel like Grimsby didn't do enough, and that my impression is there's a frustration they didn't push hard enough. But I think Chesterfield controlled the game pretty well, and got, I was going to say, lucky in a moment, but it was a good save.
Yeah, look, I wanna get this completely right before I go on about my thoughts about the penalty and stuff like that and the overall performance. I thought Chesterfield were outstanding, absolutely outstanding on the night. They won every first ball, won every second ball. They were very quick on the transitions. They absolutely dominated the midfield battle. Sammy Braybrook and Tom Naylor last night were outstanding. Like, truly. Sammy Braybrook's a joy to watch, honestly. And you just had to see his ball for Bonus's goal. It's an absolute joke, really. Some of the vision that he has and some of the technique he has. He's another player that I expect big things off for the future. I honestly do. That there's a real good player there. And we saw it in the first half of the season at Newport as well. We know there's a cracking player in there and will only continue to get better. I'll be amazed if he's not in League One next season. That's for sure. But yeah, look, they're sort of racing to a 2-goal. Thing is, I think the first 20 or so minutes or so I thought was pretty tight contest, not really much in it. And then they sort of get that opening. And as soon as they get that first goal, their heckles are up, and rightly so. And we couldn't deal with them at all. I thought the second goal, especially from Jay's point, from KB's point, looks pretty soft for them to then go at the other end. And then the Bonus is pretty much cleaning on goal, really. And look, he's got all the time to pick his spot, and he's done just that, as you'd expect a striker to do. But like I said, we got that goal just before our time, and I was expecting a bit of a kick up the backside in the second half, and I don't think we got that at all. If anything, I think Chesterfield probably should have scored a couple more goals. I think they hit the post second half as well, from what I remember. I think that might have been Braybrook, but I'm not too sure. But I think, look, if he said that game was probably going to finish 3 or 4-1, I mean, I couldn't have really complained. But this is the thing. Look, I think we said all season, really, about Chesterfield. There's been a little bit of inconsistency all season on their part. But you also know, when they're on it, they are one of the best teams in this league. Absolutely. I mean, you just see the attacking players that they've got. They're more than capable of hurting teams. And they did just that, and were probably quite unlucky that they didn't score a couple more. But my frustration is the fact we just didn't really give it a go. Again, it just felt like we had another off night. And in such a big game like that, that can't be happening. Like, this is pretty big game. Like, I saw going into this game, as a Grimsby perspective, don't lose. Just don't, I didn't see it as a must win, must not lose more than anything because of the position that we're in. I just don't. And that's what frustrates me. I just don't think we really gave it much of a go at all. And then we get to the penalty in which Justin Amaluza won. And by the way, I don't know how he's not starting more games. He had more of an impact in 15, 20 minutes than Darragh Burns did all game. Like, I don't want to single out players because most of them were pretty poor all night. But I don't know. I've not seen much in Darragh Burns to make me suggest as to why he should be starting. Yes, he can whip in a half-decent cross now and again, but he's not someone that's going to drive at a defender. He's too indecisive. He can't really shoot. And we know we've got good options there. Would that have been the case if Jason Van Thorsen was available all season? Probably not, actually. I don't think he gets over it. But look, we get to the penalty. Justin Amaluza does really well to get there. And then the penalty. Right, I don't understand. Right, I know we've mentioned. I've mentioned about our penalty taking record a couple of weeks ago when we missed one against Harrogate. We know it was poor. Like, I think it's 5 converted in 11 games, and you look at them, and you look at the games in which we have missed penalties. That's easy 6 points that we've missed out on alone. Like, it's ridiculous. But what I also don't understand is David Attell talked in the interview about. I mean, Charles Vernon, look, we decided before the game. Yeah, okay, I get that. But he also went on to say that we didn't know if Charles Vernon was going to be on the pitch. At that point, he was on the pitch. Now, I understand you're giving it to Staunton, and you can't knock him for taking it. You cannot. But the issue I've got with it is, I think in such a big pressure penalty from what that was, because we score that, it's a complete game changer for the season, because it's still in our hands, really, where we want to be. I was expecting more of the CDM pros like a Vernon, like a Cook. I know Cook missed one in his last time, but he should have gone straight away and told him, right, I'm having this. Go away, really. And I saw none of that. If anything, it looked a lot of confusion before the penalty was taken, and it's culminated in that. Again, it looks a better save and a better penalty than what I initially thought. But that's the thing is, I was on about to you. I'd have been more at peace with the result if you didn't have the penalty. It's as simple as that. That is not knocking anything Chesterfield did on the night. They thoroughly deserved it. Thoroughly deserved the victory. I know we sort of rambled on a little bit, but it's almost like we've used up all our penalty tokens against Manchester United, in which we scored 12 of them. Granted, it was against Andre Onana, but it was. I don't know. We could do the post-mortem when we're out of it, if we're out of it, if we miss out. We are still in the battle, but there's not much wriggle room for error now. It's as simple as that. But yeah, look, obviously gutted about the result in the end because it could have been so different. The performance was not what I expected in a big pressure game. Put it that way. And yeah, that's all I've really got to say now. I know it's been critical. Well, I've got it out, and I've sort of just been trying to go through it in my head all day as to what I'm going to say, really. But again, I'll put it on record. Chesterfield were brilliant. They were brilliant. One of the best teams I think we've played. I think they're probably better than Barnet on that showing.
They're in great form, absolutely great form, and the rest of their games. I mean, Swindon look a bit in trouble, but that's probably their toughest game left because they've got Fleetwood, who are firmly on the beach this weekend. So they're in the driver's seat.
But one thing I'll mention quickly as well, and Luke, especially you probably might agree with this. It almost feels like last season when they turned it on at the brilliant moment. Again, they're doing it again. They're doing it. They just know how to do it. And yes, they've got tricky games left, but certainly with a win like that last night, what can that do to their confidence for the last 3 games that they've got? It could do them the world of good. It honestly can. And the belief in that camp must be through the roof after that, because they know deep down that is a big 3 points. Massive, in fact. It's that big.
Yeah, I mean, they're now in a position where they've got a reasonable points advantage. They're in that position as it stands, they don't need to do as much as everyone else to get over the line, essentially. From a Grimsby perspective, it also puts so much pressure onto that game in hand, as well as the 2 games between that. I think you play 2 more in between before you actually play the game in hand. Is that right?
We've got our game in hand is next Tuesday. Sorry.
Okay, so one first and then the game in hand. Yeah.
Away.
But it puts so much more pressure on those next 2.
Away at Cambridge is our game in hand, and they've lost 1 home game all season. Yeah, good luck.
Well, yeah, and that's going to mean a lot for their season as well, given how much they're still playing for, and with another round of fixtures in between as well, it's not going to be easy. So, yeah, I mean, Chesterfield can just keep using that momentum to pull them across the line, and we're now at the point where they're not even far behind Salford or Swindon, so you could actually get to the point where they could be looking up towards something like 5th. That would be pretty good. That would be very good going after all of that. Forward, lots of forward momentum, and then come up against a team that's kind of come off of it in the last few weeks in the playoffs. That wouldn't necessarily be a bad position to be in. So yeah, from a Chesterfield perspective, things are looking up, and it's everyone else's job to catch them. And I mean, even just these Tuesday games have pretty much ruined the hopes of anyone below Grimsby, really. I mean, Barnet, Crewe, Oldham still have a chance, but it's a tall order now. It's a very tall order now.
Barnet have to go faultless and pray, really, don't they? Really. Whereas for us, I know we've got that game in hand, and but again, it's just more pressure, really. I think we've got to go to Gillingham now on Saturday and win, really. I think if we probably lose another game, look, there'll be plenty more twists and turns, because like I said, I mean, Chesterfield have still got like Crewe and Swindon to play. We've still got to play Swindon. So it could be all different. I mean, there's still a fair few games to play. It could have been so much closer than what it is. But look, I know we've talked a while about it. I know we sort of tried to link it with the table, but I guess we should probably mention Oldham as well. Of course, they was probably another side that were going for it. Lost a bit of a thriller last night away at Barrow. 3-2 it finished. Wasn't it like 4 goals in the last 10 minutes or so? Ridiculous, really. I mean, Barrow won it 3-2. I mean, look, Oldham took the lead in that game, and then it was 2 quick-fire goals, wasn't it, from Danny Rose and Josh Gordon, literally straight from Oldham's kickoff, in which, certainly one that Matt Hudson won't want to watch again, that's for sure. For someone that's been so good this season, he's had a shocker there. It was Kai Payne with the opening goal for Oldham, I should have mentioned. I mean, Oldham looked like they nicked a point in the 89th minute through Tom Pett, but I mean, upstairs Isaac Fletcher in the 91st minute to give Barrow a massive 3 points. And again, it's probably one in which they've got the bit between their teeth. Actually, I mean, it's another result that could do wonders. And you look at the League Two relegation battle now, what that result is, because obviously that was Barrow's game in hand. Oh my God, it's so tight. I mean, you've got Harrogate in 24th on 33 points. Barrow are now, they're still 23rd, but they're on 36. Newport 22nd, 37. Crawley 21st, 37. Tranmere 20th, 37. But they've got a game in hand as well. So all of a sudden, when those teams above them feel like they've got a little bit of daylight, that's just been wiped out in an instant. So we've got a relegation battle here.
I think it just shows how it's just moments. Sometimes it's just absolute pure chaos. The equalising goal, which comes from the player, I think it was Gordon, when he closes down Hudson, and you're just like that. Everything just changes on that one moment, that one decision to go and close the keeper down, and all of a sudden it's pure chaos. Form books out the window, like just very silly on one single moment. And now, the relegation battle is horrible. Like you think you were upset about the Grimsby result. There's a lot of fans who are just.
I mean, look, we're challenging for a playoff spot. I'd rather be in this position than be anywhere near the bottom. And I've known that from experience, because I've seen us get relegated from this division. I've seen us being in relegation battles. I know which one I'd rather prefer, really.
Yeah. Not a good place to be if you're a Newport, Crawley or Tranmere fan, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean this was the game that I was watching as I previously mentioned, and don't get me wrong, for 80 minutes this was an awful game of football. It was dreadful, crappy stop start. Both teams getting quite dirty about it, to be honest. Um, but eventually, I think the emotion of the occasion sort of just came into play, and the stakes just almost seemed overwhelming, I suppose, in some regard. The fact that you end up with 4 goals like that, and it's just as soon as Barrow are able to find one, it just sort of spurs them on to go and actually finish the job. So yes, although they were pegged back again with the 88th minute goal, I don't think anything was going to stop them at that point. They just got bit between the teeth. Right, we're having it now. So as good as Oldham have been over the last 2 or 3 months, it got to the point where that just didn't matter, and Barrow are finally the team that actually want to survive. Which is great to see from their perspective, because I feel like until a couple of weeks ago we hadn't really seen that. It kind of just looked like they were gonna just almost accept that they were down and that would be the end of it. But as you guys have alluded to, we've now got this incredible battle on our hands with 3 games to go and 5 teams down there. It's not looking great for Harrogate. Let's be real. 4 points behind adrift at the minute. But for 3 teams to be on 37 and the other on 36, it's going down to the wire. And from a neutral position, you wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah, exactly. It's certainly great for the from the outside eye. I think you're probably looking at Barrow's last 3 as well. I mean, their next game they've got Walsall at home, not playing for anything now. They can't make the playoffs. They then go to Cambridge, second to last game of the season. Tough ask, but I think probably in where they are at the minute and the fact that they're kicking and fighting for every point they can possibly get, they'll certainly try and make it tough for them. And obviously, you're looking at that big one final day between them and Newport. That could be absolutely huge, potentially going into it. And look, you mentioned Harrogate. I mean, relegation, I believe, can come as early as this weekend for them, but they do look doomed. 4 points adrift, 3 games left. And those 3 games are not the prettiest either, with Colchester, Walsall, and Barnet. But look, certainly for the viewer, I mean, look, Newport, Crawley, Tranmere, all on 37 points. Tranmere have that game in hand. So there's a bit of a, I say, 4-way battle. I just don't see how Harrogate get out of it now. But if we're going off that, but see, this is what it's all about, really. I mean, it's not quite as chaotic as maybe the one in League One, where there's still 10 teams that could still get into that last relegation spot, like they want to get in it. But just how tight it is pretty remarkable, and it's put a huge spanner in the works. As for Oldham, we should probably touch on them real quick. Of course, we've gone on about their brilliant run, but ultimately now that's 1 win in their last 5 games, which includes 1 draw in that point and 3 defeats. 2 of those defeats coming back to back between Shrewsbury and Barrow. Of course, that was a game in hand. Currently on 65 points. It's pretty much all but done, I think, now for them. Really, it's the manager of the month curse. That's it. Basically, from the last couple of games, because of course Mickey Mellon got manager of the month last month. But yeah, look, I think they could be proud of their season for what they've done anyway. First year back, they've been challenging, albeit they've been on a brilliant run. There's something to build on for next year if this is to be it. But yeah, I don't see how they make it now. If we're going to be perfectly honest.
No, I think they're out of it, and I think it's really is Chesterfield's to lose up there. I mean, of course they could. Consistency is tough to come by, but yeah, it feels like it's almost done now.
Yeah, it's probably just a formality for the 3 teams of Barnet, Crewe, and Oldham of just when they're unable to make it rather than if. And to be honest, by the weekend, that could just be it for all 3 of them. To be honest, I mean, I'm certainly hoping that's the case because we've got to play Crewe. But no, I think I'm going to lump Barnet and Oldham in together here. The first season back for both of them. fair play. Honestly, not far off the pace at all. When there was always a chance that either side could have crept into those playoff places, and you would have probably said, what, fair enough. They've done well to get there, and they deserve it. So, although both are probably falling short on this occasion, they've got foundations there, both teams, of that would suggest that they could build on that next season. And I mean, next season's going to be an interesting one. I'm hoping I won't have to do too much talking about it, to be honest. But yeah, no, there's certainly some sides to keep an eye on, and for next season that I'd expect to kick on. And Barnet and Oldham are two that I'd put into that category.
Let's have a quick look at the other two games that took place last night. I don't think we really need to dwell on this too much, to be honest. Colchester, Mayfield had got the slimmest of slimmest chances. I tell a lie. After last night, they're 9 points adrift, actually. But look, 3 wins in a row for them in the league, coming from behind to beat Accrington Stanley by 2-1. Did go behind in the game, as I mentioned, through Sean Wally. Goal just before half-time through Will. Good win. And a late goal, an 86-minute winner from Jack Payne gives them there. Again, they're finishing the season strong. It's like Accrington have sort of... I don't think they've really been bothered about the last month or so of the season, which again has been a little bit disappointing, really. 6 defeats out of the last 7 games, include partway through that, they did beat Crewe 2-0 in that, but they've pretty much been on the beach as they come. And 2 sides that are pretty much on the beach after, of course, Cheltenham secured their safety in the league during the weekend. They met Gillingham. Again, had to come from behind and beat them with a late goal to win 2-1. Ronan Hale with the goal for Gillingham in the 18th minute. The second half goal through Isaac Hutchinson. What a season he's had, by the way, for them. I think certainly it's certainly the first piece of business that they've got to try and do. Whether that's possible or not, we'll have to see. Will there be higher league interest? Well, I don't know. It remains to be seen. Would he be part of Bristol Rovers' plans? I know there's been a bit of history, so we're not too sure. But look, he equalised 63rd minute. Should probably say as well the Mo Foul winner in the 95th minute. Brilliant goal, really good hit, and a goal worthy of winning any game. But ultimately, that, if we're going to be truthful here, that's as dead rubber as they come. Really, not much riding on it for either side in that game. Just your quick roundup for those 2 games, really.
Yeah, maybe almost worth not even talking about the games and just talking about Colchester. Of course, a lot of buzz around a certain John Terry. Maybe he's going to take over the club. Maybe he just came to see his nephew, Frankie, who is also a centre-back for Colchester. So maybe it was very, very innocent. It wasn't. But yeah, odds on John Terry being the Colchester manager in the next 12 months. I don't think you'd get very good odds on that. It depends. I don't think the Cowleys are brilliant, and I don't think they've done anything to deserve not being in the dugout. But it feels like it could get awkward very quickly. Albeit, I think Colchester fans will welcome a consortium with lots of money and a big name potentially. But you wonder if it could get a little bit awkward at the same time.
Yeah, we'll come back to that news. Now you've mentioned it, we'll do it sooner rather than later. But Luke, just on those games, real quick, away from the takeover stuff that's surrounding Colchester at the minute.
Yeah, I mean, positive signs for Colchester. We kind of discussed on the previous episode, they're finally scoring again, so that's nice. Hopefully, a chance for them to kick on next season. Because as we say, for all 4 of these teams, it's kind of done for this season. But at least with Colchester, there's signs of things looking up again. Although I do personally feel like I would have expected more from them. But then that comes with the caveat of the injury problems they've had have been absolutely brutal. But I feel like next season, they're a team I'd expect to sort of kick on with the players they've got available to them, and then whatever they can do in the summer, RE takeover, all the rest of it. Again, Accrington, it's not been a great finish, but there were signs of them looking very good at one point. To the point that we had the one of our hosts saying that there's a chance they make the playoffs, and it actually felt like a reasonable shout for the longest of times. And
I mean, look, it was partly me in this episode as well, really, until I had a quick look at the table, and then I quickly did. It's like, yeah, it's probably not. Really.
But not the greatest finishes for Accrington, but then they've not been playing for anything for quite a while now, to be fair. Just to very quickly touch on Cheltenham and Gillingham, I'm going to reiterate just how good of a season Isaac Hutchinson has had, and whoever ends up with him next season, regardless of what league that is, I mean, they're going to have a very good player on their hands. It almost feels quite similar to the Dan Kemp situation, where he's just good anywhere other than his parent club. So definitely a player to keep an eye on. But yeah, maybe not the most convincing of performances from Cheltenham, but a nice result for them. But it also highlights the final third problems of Gillingham that seem to have been around since, the old ages. They just can't score goals. From the chances they had, they should have scored more. I know there's potential for them to be doing a bit of a rebuild in the summer, and again, that they're going to be a team with a lot of pressure on them to perform next season.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, there's certainly going to be a big summer ahead. We've pretty much gone on about this. Yeah, there's going to be a big rebuild. I know that Brad Ganser has basically gone on to say that we're going to pretty much overhaul the squad, which is much needed, especially after the season that they've had. I think like I said, we've mentioned it a few times. I think they've stuck with some players in that team for far too long. They just need to sort of rip the rule book out a little bit and just start fresh, really. And what has been, again, another really underwhelming season for them. But we've touched on Gillingham more than enough this season. We've got Gillingham at the weekend, so I'll probably be mentioning them again in a little bit. But look, Tom, you mentioned about the Colchester John Terry news. I guess we should probably touch on it real quick. Obviously, it was a story that was first broken by The Sun. I didn't really want to believe it first because it's from them, really. But obviously, things started to come out a little bit more. There was a statement from Colchester's Twitter from Robbie Cowlin, their chairman, saying that there was deep discussions. Now, of course, this was only a couple of months ago, Luke. We were talking about a consortium that involved Alexandra Pato potentially buying the club. Nothing materialised of that, sadly. But it's certainly an interesting one. But it certainly looks like that it might be one with the club's best interests at heart. I think there's been no secret that I think maybe if Colchester want to go and kick on as a football club, I think they need a little bit of fresh impetus from above. And I think if this is the start of a fantastic new dawn for them, then this could only be a good thing for them. Look, I know you've mentioned about the manager stuff. I don't think it's any secret that John Terry has been after a role in management. But of course, I think the worst thing he can do really is come straight in and bin off the Cowlers. I still stand by the fact that they are their best chance of getting into League One. Has the season lived up to the expectations? Not really, but there has been circumstances to that, and I guess you can understand it a little bit. But yeah, I think there is really good potential at that football club. I really do, and especially I think since the Cowlers have come in there in particular, they've just given the whole place a bit of a lift, really. And I don't think there's many people that are not right behind them, and they'll go again next year. You expect them to be strong next year, and if this takeover gets over the line and they've got a little bit more money to play with to put into the budget, it can only be a good thing for them to give them the best opportunity of getting towards the playoffs, cracking into them, or if not better. But it remains to be seen. Of course, he's got his own consortium there, but if he's got the best interests at heart, I mean, there was mention of a lot of money involved, but we'll have to see on that. But certainly exciting news. But I guess at the same time, I think to also caveat that, they've been here before. So they're sort of hoping that this one does get over the line. And from the sounds of things, it does sound like it's progressing pretty quickly. This is different to the Alexandra Pato one, but no, certainly exciting times.
Yeah, John Terry has slightly stronger links to Colchester than
Alexandra. Of course, Frankie Terry as well, as you was mentioned there. So yeah, it sort of makes sense on that point. The Alexandra Pato one was such a random one, wasn't it?
That was a strange one. I suppose my only sort of concern with the whole thing is you don't want this whole sort of will they, won't they sort of situation to to drag on. Obviously, this is the first time we're hearing of this, so it's probably, it could well be done within the next week, and we're on to the next great thing or whatever. But what you don't want to end up with is a situation like Cheltenham's at the beginning of this season, where it was talked about for ages, didn't happen for the longest time. It really toyed with their season. You can even look at Tranmere because theirs is still ongoing. You don't want that instability there. So it's kind of a case of you either want it done pretty quickly or just it's not happening, on we go. But I'm sure they'll be sensible with it because this whole thing with Alexandra Pato ended pretty quickly and they just got on with it back to how they were. But yeah, it's an interesting situation, that's for sure. And as we've kind of alluded to, they are a club that I think we'd expect to kick on next season, especially if they can hold on to some of the names that they have got within that squad.
You mentioned Tranmere there. I should probably mention Shrewsbury. I did see there was an American sort of consortium, I think, as well, at Manchester Bank Club, but they've had numerous fault storms. That's the issue with there. So it is really just a case of we'll believe it when we see it at this point. And I guess it's probably the same for pretty much anything, really. Instead of trying to get everyone's hopes up, wait until the ink is dry sort of first and then start to think about it, really. I think it's probably the more relaxed way of going about it. But that's just how it is in football, I guess.
Yeah, spot on. I don't really have much more to add to that. I suppose that's the joy of football, though. It's speculation, whether it's results or takeovers, all the rest of it, transfers. We're very nearly at that point of the year. As soon as the season's done, that'll be all we're talking about. But yeah, on to the next, I guess.
Right, let's move on. Last night in League One, Rotherham United were the first team to have their relegation confirmed. Currently 22nd, so it's quite interesting that the fact that the team that is currently 22nd, there's two teams below them in Port Vale and Northampton, have yet to have their relegations confirmed. I mean, we're recording this on a Wednesday, and Northampton are currently playing, but there is a good chance that it could be confirmed for them tonight. Or even them and Port Vale, let's be honest, it's a case of when, not if, really. But going back to Rotherham, I do think this was a case of this has been coming for a long time this season. They've had a torrid season. Of course, that 3-0 defeat to Wigan has pretty much summed everything up. Now, we was having a bit of a conversation about Rotherham earlier, and I put something in the chat as to what Lee Clark, who's currently there, has taken over as manager until the end of the season. Some of the comments that he's made in the media about the state of how Rotherham are run and the players that they've currently got, and there's some pretty damning stuff in there. Like there was one case in which you mentioned earlier, one player apparently rang in sick. They told him to come in. Turns out he was fine, and apparently he was training. So some way to try and skive off work, really. But I guess that probably is a case of, it's probably an indication of the attitude of some of these players. I don't take much of an interest, or certainly much of an eye, probably not much of an interest, because it's quite interesting going in a minute, but certainly an eye. But I think certainly from what you see, I think certainly they just look a bit of a mess on and off the pitch, actually, Rotherham at the minute, and it's accumulated in this. I think they've been on the decline for a couple of years, and again, it's just accumulated in this with some terrible decisions, some terrible recruitment. The cheap options, I think, in terms of managers, obviously with Matt Hamshaw, it was there for the majority of this season. I think he's Rotherham through and through, basically. Didn't work out. Probably sacked him too late. Brought in Lee Clark for the last few games. Has only picked up, I think, 1 point during his tenure. I think he sort of knew deep down that he's had a difficult job on his hands already. But I guess some of the comments in the media that he's made might be the wake-up call that maybe the whole club needs. Because, of course, they are dropping down back into League Two. It's the first time they've done so in, I think, 13 years. And you've looked at Rotherham over the past few years or so. They've been top-end League One, bottom-end Championship, haven't they? A fair bit of that was under Paul Warren, as you know, Luke, of course, now MK Don's gaffer. They've had some real successful times at the recently, but it's just gone terribly wrong so quickly. And if they're not careful next year, because I was saying to you earlier, the past three teams to be relegated first out of League One, Forest Green and Carlisle ended up getting relegated again, and Shrewsbury last season were in a relegation battle for the majority of this season. So there's something to be wary of, and where they are at the minute, probably a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, they've got a lot of players out of contract. They've not got a big squad coming down, which, to be fair, might be a good thing because they have been quite poor. Um, it looks like one of those where, and my team Posh have played Rotherham a couple of times, and especially the second time, absolutely battered them. They looked awful, and it is that something is wrong off the pitch. There's a lot of fans do not seem happy with the owner who's transferred his ownership to his son. So making that what we will. And yeah, some of Lee Clark's comments seem bizarre, and hiring Lee Clark was a bit weird as well. So it's one of those ones where it's still an attractive club and place to play, and they could absolutely have a decent season next year, but they should be more worried than not, because if you've got off the field trouble, that and as you've just pointed out there, like teams who come down from League One tend to struggle. It is a trend for a reason, and in particular, if you look poor off the pitch, yeah, it sort of permeates through the whole club. So yeah, I think they need to sort it out quick, and it will probably yet another ownership change. We're talking a lot about those. Probably needs to happen because it's a bit toxic there.
Absolutely, and I mean, whoever comes in terms of even just a management capacity, it is a huge job there. Just having a quick look at the squad, there aren't many players I'd want there if I was a Rotherham fan. I'm looking at Sam Nombe and I'm looking at Joe Powell, and the rest of them, I'm just like, nah, you're good. You've like, and to be honest, I think they'll struggle to keep hold of those two because those two could definitely still do a job in League One, so they'd be doing
Nombe's
very well if
very
they
good.
could keep hold of
He's
them.
Yeah, very good. There's no way they have Nombe.
No.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I mean,
I mean, look,
maybe we'll have it back. He came from our academy, so.
I mean, look, we mentioned about the Rotherham squad on paper, and when you look at it like that, it's not that bad, actually. It's certainly one in which you probably expect to hold their own in League One. But you also look at it, I mean, there are some decent players in there, like you've mentioned Sam Nombe and a couple of others. But you also look at it, they've been a big reason why they're in the mess that they have been this season.
In general, yeah, it looks an absolute mess. Their fans have been very vociferous and very messy on socials recently. And yeah, I think it's a justified outcry at how poor they've been, when they should be nowhere near this. They should be nowhere near this. I know a few people were sounding the alarm in pre-season, but I don't think many people really expected them to be in the relegation zone.
Yeah, I mean, they're a team I've kind of always thought of in recent times as, oh yeah, that's the yo-yo team. Your League One Championship, League One Championship every year. It's almost a guarantee. It's only these sort of last couple of years that things are really starting to fall apart, and you are really looking at a full-scale rebuild now. So although we've mentioned some of the other teams that have kind of gone down and struggled, I think we're potentially looking at a more of a Bristol Rovers situation where they're going to have to get a ton of names in, and it's going to have to stick, and it might be quite messy to begin with until they find the right combination of things to make it work. Because I mean, we all look at that Bristol Rovers squad this season, think, you know what, there's a lot of good players there. They should be right up towards the top end of things. And I think I even predicted those to be second, and that's obviously not happened. But I think we could be looking at a very similar situation with Rotherham. They just there's going to be a lot going on with them. They just need to find some kind of stability and the combination that works. Otherwise, they could be in for another rough one.
Well, it's certainly going to be a big summer anyway. You expect them to have a bit of a full rebuild as it is for players to move on. They've obviously got to sort out who their manager is going to be next season, if it's going to be Lee Clark. I'm not sure if he should get it, but it depends what they want to do. And I mentioned earlier, we were talking about potential managers for them. Obviously, we mentioned about the obviously with Hin there and Matt Hamshaw. It almost feels like they've just gone for the cheap option. And again, that's not a stain on what any of them have done. Like we all looked at the Lee Clark appointment and were thinking, what on earth? Like he's not managed in this country for a fair few years. So yeah, it's absolutely a big summer for them. And if they get this wrong, then they could slip again. It's not beyond the realms of impossible to say they can slip again, because once you get into that slide, it's very hard to stop it, especially at League Two level. It's ridiculous, really. But look, if there's any Rotherham fans that are listening in preparation for League Two next season. I'm really curious to obviously get your thoughts as we look ahead to next season. I did mention as well, Northampton's relegation could be confirmed tonight as well. They're currently playing Luton Town. It's currently goalless after the opening 16 minutes. But again, like I say, it's probably a case of where not if. Currently 23rd on 36 points. But like I said, Rotherham relegated in 22nd is quite the astonishing one. Obviously, with Northampton and especially with Port Vale, they've still got 6 games left. They've only played 40. But again, you do get the sense it is a case of when, not if for them. But I was mentioning a little bit about Port Vale. I don't really want to say too much because they're not confirmed to be relegated yet. But let's say they are. I think certainly out of those 3 at the minute, they look more prepared to bounce back and go straight back up again, or certainly give it a good go. You know what John Brady's all about. He's done it at this level before with Northampton. And yeah, they're a good club, Port Vale there. They've got some good backing. They've got a really good ownership that they've got. And they'll look to try and forget about this season and look to rectify it again. Northampton has a few more question marks because, again, they're coming into the new season without a manager themselves. And again, there is going to have to be a sense of there might have to be a little bit of a rebuild because, again, they've been pretty poor looking at it from the outside as well.
Yeah. Northampton have been properly awful for a little while. They did start the season looking pretty good, and there were a few people kind of wondering if Kevin Nolan had got it right. But yeah, they've looked properly awful for a long time, and it's weirdly bottom of the table who have the best vibes because they bottomed out much quicker. And they've had a good FA Cup run. John Brady's decent manager. So, yeah, Port Vale, I would imagine, will be in and around the playoffs next year. Northampton, I genuinely couldn't place right now. I think, yeah, there's so much to see what they do in the summer.
There's so much up in the air with them, I think.
Yeah.
Whereas you see those other two and you sort of get a little bit of an idea from the get-go. With Northampton, I'm not sure.
Yeah, no idea.
Yeah, I mean, with Northampton, I think just the downward kind of trend from League One to League Two is so difficult to get out of. You know, like even just looking at this season, pretty much all the teams, well, aside from Cambridge coming down, struggled at some point during this season. None of them have had it really plain sailing, aside from that one anomaly in Cambridge. So Northampton, another one I'm kind of looking at and thinking there might need to be a rebuild there. It might take them a while to find their footing. I mean, obviously Port Vale have pretty much been prepped for this whole thing for a little while. I'm not necessarily convinced they're going to be like straight back up for sure kind of level of team, but I mean, there's at least kind of an indication that they can stop the rot and start moving back in the right direction at least a little bit.
But I'm just seeing it with Port Vale just at this moment in time on face value. I think they're better than those other two when it comes to League Two. They're certainly more. I think they're certainly more prepared. Yeah, I think they sort of know that this has been coming for a while.
Yeah, I'd say that's entirely valid, and I mean, obviously, there's a lot to happen between now and then, so I will obviously have to wait and see on it, and yeah, after that, you're just trying to figure out who that final team is. I know who I want it to be. That's all I'll say.
Well, we'll just quickly touch on it in a minute. It's currently occupied by Exeter City in 21st, currently on 47 points. AFC Wimbledon are in 20th, but they are currently playing themselves. They've got Stockport County, so a tough game to them. But any sort of points for them, again, could be big at this stage. And it sort of leaves Exeter, 4 points adrift. Let's say if it still remains as a draw as it currently is at the minute, that'll put Exeter 4 points adrift with 3 games to go. So, again, they've got it all to do there. But you see the other teams as well. There's, at this moment in time, if you count an AFC Wimbledon, 5 teams that are on 51 points. That includes Peterborough.
The only good thing is we have 2 games in hand.
True.
But we one of them is Port Vale tomorrow. But
significantly better goal difference than all the others.
Yes.
If it came down to it.
Thank God. But yeah, it's that. I mean, that shows you how grim it's been for us. But anyway, I think Exeter are probably done. But it's only probably because they are playing quite well. It's not as if it is finished. The Wimbledon game tonight is massive, absolutely massive. Because if they lose, then Exeter will know they can do it. So it's we don't know who it's going to be yet, but fortunately, I don't think it's Bosch. I don't think it's Leighton Orient either. I think one of Burton.
It won't be Burton because they always do enough.
Oh yeah, they just survive even though they shouldn't. So
Blackpool has been such a funny one this season as to where they are. Again, just looking at it from the outside, it is at this moment in time, it is probably going to be Exeter. I think they're sort of hoping that Stockport do beat Wimbledon, try to keep them between arm's length really, and make sure that the gap to catch him is as short as possible. But even that, I say that even if they win, I mean, they'll still be 4 points adrift because it'll be Blackpool that'll drop down to 20th.
Yeah. And Exeter still have Stockport next. But if they can stay in it, then second to last game is Burton. So that could be a big one, or it could be done.
I do get the sense Exeter will drop though.
Yeah,
personally,
I refuse to believe it.
You just want them down, don't you? MK going up,
down. We're going up. I don't want to play them.
Oh, well, yeah, okay. Right, okay. Let's move on from that. Let's touch on the National League very quickly. Of course, that's ever tense with 2 games to go. As far as I'm aware, all the playoff places have been confirmed. The Southend confirmed their playoff spot last night, I think they played. They beat Aldershot by 2-0. So we know for sure Southend, Forest Green, Scunthorpe, Boreham Wood, Carlisle, Rochdale, York. I mean, 6 of those will be in the playoffs. Happy with that. We'll touch on the obvious caveat for top spot in a minute, but happy with that at all?
Yeah, it's fun. It's it's all right. I tend not to look too much at the National League. I'll be honest. I just kind of see every week there seems to be some sort of last minute incredible goal, and then every week you're like, oh, York have scored in the last minute again.
The other week, then the next week it's Rochdale, basically.
Yeah. Okay, cool. But yeah, I mean, York have been at it for a little while, haven't they? Trying to get up. I mean, if they came up, you'd think they'd spend quite heavily. I think Rochdale are kind of a natural EFL team. So maybe I'm slightly rooting for Rochdale.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of indifferent because I'm really hoping it won't matter to me. But I mean, the only thing I could really say is it is insane that potentially not both of them would be up, and that's a whole other conversation that I'm sure has been discussed loads before, and will probably continue to be discussed until it happens, if it ever does. That thing needs to happen.
Well, yeah. Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Let's just touch on the top 2. Both York and Rochdale, as far as I'm aware, both kick off at 5:30 at the weekend. York City are at home to Yeovil, who are down in 16th looking at it, whilst Rochdale take the trip to Braintree Town, already relegated in 23rd. There is that chance that York can wrap up promotion this weekend if they were to beat Yeovil and Rochdale to lose to Braintree. I think even if it's against, I think it's even a case of even if York was to draw with Yeovil and Rochdale lose to Braintree, you're looking at York's momentous goal difference, really. And you've got it all to. But let's be honest, we want it to go down to the final day, don't we, as neutral, where both of those two play each other, both of them win, or even both of them lose. We all want this grandstand finish, winner takes all, really. This is the most exciting, I think, season I've seen of the National League, really. It's going to be joy for one and going to be heartbreak for the other when they have to go through the playoffs. And it is a bit of a disgrace as to, with the fact that there's a chance that Rochdale in particular, currently in second, 2 games left, but they're on 102 points. the fact that they could get to 105 points, let's say they lose on the final day to York after beating Braintree, they're not going to go up. There's no guarantees they're going to go up. It's pretty mad.
That final day playing each other is just...
It doesn't get bigger, does it? It really doesn't get... It's one of the biggest... I think it's one of the biggest games I recall at any level of the top 5 leagues for a long time. I generally think it's got that because they've been toing and throwing at each other's throats pretty much all season, and there's a chance it could all culminate into that straight shootout final day, winner takes all. It's just beautiful. It's what it's all about, really.
You've summed it up pretty much perfectly. It's just an insane way to finish the season, and that's just this. The English ladder in a nutshell. It is a glorious way to finish. I mean, it's almost a shame that we've all got our other teams to go to, our actual teams to go watch. Otherwise, this would be great. This would be great. This would be great fun as a neutral.
It's been so much fun. And of course, I've been speaking to a lot of the National League guys, pretty much all season. I've been keeping a close eye on it. Like I said, I just love the carnage, especially with the amount of late goals in which I've seen. It's just been pretty mad. Shall we get into some predictions? Because I'm aware we're on 57 minutes and we've all got stuff to do. Right, let's kick off with the game tomorrow night, Thursday night. And what an evening this could be for Bromley Football Club. I mean, we had one opportunity to wrap up promotion at MK Dons the other day. Didn't happen. They've got the opportunity to do it in front of their home fans. They've just got the small task of Cambridge United at Hayes Lane. Currently unbeaten at home, but it's certainly going to be a tricky game for them, but it could be certainly a special one. And saying that, I am going to go for a 1-0 Bromley.
It will be dramatic because I think they'll have some nerves. So I'll go 2-1 Bromley, but yeah, I think they do it.
I don't know what to think of this game. It's really important.
I mean, I've just said Bromley just for the sake of that they could wrap it up. I mean, this will be absolutely monstrous for Cambridge as well, really, if they were to go there and even pick up, well, especially if they go there and pick up a win, which they're more than capable of because they've been brilliant over these last few months, and they've obviously picked up that really good win against Notts County the other day, in which, to be fair, listening to the pod, I don't think you gave them anywhere near enough credit for, really. If we're going to be brutally honest, less said about Notts the better, I think, in that one, though. But taking nothing away from them.
Yeah, I mean, what this game could potentially mean for both teams. For Bromley, it would, well, yes, it would confirm autos, but it would probably also be one hand on the trophy as well. If they can get that result done. Whereas from a Cambridge perspective, if they can somehow win it and ruin Bromley's unbeaten home record, you're potentially looking at a three-way battle for the title over the last 2 games, assuming we beat Crewe, which would also be insane. What a way that would be to finish the season. I think for the sake of entertainment, I'm going to say that Cambridge do get it done, even with their emergency keeper. They've got Jack Walton in goal. Not our host.
No, not ours.
Jack Walton. But I'm gonna say Cambridge get it done, and I'm gonna say another 2-1.
Okay, right. We'll do these other ones very quickly. Barrow against Walsall. Barrow got the bit between their teeth after that very good victory against Oldham last night. Walsall, their season is dead and buried, really, without winning their last 4 back-to-back defeats. I mean, that Cheltenham one at the weekend was a very poor one, truth be told. Walsall are playing for nothing, I think, at this point. Barrow have got everything to play for, and if they can show anywhere near the resilience that they showed last night, they give themselves a chance. I'm going to go 2-1 Barrow.
I'm going to say Walsall throw a spanner in the works, and it makes no sense, and it's 1-0 Walsall.
I'm just going to sit somewhere in the middle, and I'm going to say 1-1.
Okay, Swindon against Accrington. Nothing to play for Accrington. I mean, they've had their sun towels out for quite a long time. Swindon still got everything to play for themselves, but they need to put that disastrous result at Colchester to one side. And it was probably as bad as you could probably get, really, that night. They're at home. I do expect him to beat Accrington, truth be told. I think it could be by quite a big scoreline. Well, yeah. I'm going to go for a 3-1 Swindon win. I just can't see them not winning at home.
Yeah, I was literally thinking exactly the same scoreline. Accrington will give it a go, but they're on the beach. It's done.
Yeah, I mean, Swindon need a bounce back ultimately. Here, they've got a lot to play for still. I'm gonna say Swindon win it 2-0.
I mean, it's a big game for them, really, because if they were to drop points, their last two games are against Grimsby and Chesterfield. They're not easy games then. So we'll have to see on that one. Right, let's move on to Cheltenham against Newport. Cheltenham have got nothing to play for now, but back-to-back wins coming into this one against Walsall and Gillingham, respectively. Newport, obviously, they did pick up that big win against Harrogate, but obviously, after that result for Barrow last night, need more, really. I don't really see even with Cheltenham, their season's done. They're going to make it tough for Newport. I'm going to sit on the fence myself for this one and go 1-1.
I think Cheltenham will just have a little bit too much quality. 2-1 Cheltenham.
Yeah, I mean, I've been trying to find some kind of justification for Newport aside from just pure emotion. They've not won back-to-back games all season, so I'm going to have to go Cheltenham 2-1.
Just quickly before I move on, of course, we did mention Northampton earlier, the fact that their relegation could be sealed. It might be delayed further. They're currently a goal up away at Luton Town, Sam Hoskins, in the 31st minute. So that might be delayed a little bit longer. I know you're a fan of that one, Luke, because I know how much you love Luton Town. And so does Ian Holloway, clearly. Right, Crawley Town, Shrewsbury Town. Shrewsbury, not much to play for now themselves. I mean, that win against Oldham has sealed their safety. Again, this is a big one for Crawley, really. Back-to-back defeats against Grimsby and an informed Bristol Rovers side. They've got to look at this game as an opportunity to try and get 3 points. I think Shrewsbury on the whole, have been playing okay recently as well. Probably not had the results here and there. They've had a couple of that Oldham result was a really good one. Did beat Tranmere, much needed win for them, really. And I didn't think they played overly badly at Bromley. I'm going to 2-1 Crawley. Yeah.
Crawley be up for it, but I'm going to sit on the fence a bit and go 1-1 because Shrewsbury are playing okay, and that's better than anyone in a relegation fight is. So,
yeah, I feel like this could be one of the games of the day, potentially. Shrewsbury, as you guys say, are playing reasonably well at the minute. Crawley, one win would probably be enough. The magic 40 that we think is probably the safety point for the season. I'm actually going to say Crawley get this done and they do it in 3-2 fashion.
I don't hate that at all, actually. I certainly need it, like I said, after those back-to-back games. MK Dons make the trip to Crewe, Alexandra. Their season is hanging on by a thread. Lee Bell's words don't count us out of the playoff picture yet. Well, they've got to win all their games and hope, really, and just sort of pray. When really, well, for MK Dons, of course, that excellent result against Bromley last time out, another win here. They've certainly got 1 foot in League One, really. It's certainly safe to say that. Tight game. MK Dons come out 1-0 winners.
Yeah, that feels about right. I think 1-0. I think Dons will have too much quality, just about.
Sounds about right. So I'm going to predict something different. Literally, I'd like to think we can take confidence from beating Bromley. I know we're going to be missing John Mellish, but that means it's an opportunity for either Aaron the Main or Joe Tomlinson. We would be ending Crewe's season, but I just think with so much at stake and knowing how we reacted to that last game, I'm going to back us to win 3-1.
Fleetwood are coming up against Chesterfield. 4 wins out of their last 5 games for the Spyrites. 5 unbeaten, really, if you're also counting that draw against Tranmere. Fleetwood, not much to play for themselves, was on the right end of a 2-1 scoreline against Accrington last time. I think this is a case of another Chesterfield, go there, get the job done. They know their destiny is in their own hands at the minute, 4 points clear in that last playoff spot. They go there and win 1-0.
Yeah, I think could be a bit more a bit more fun. Maybe a 3-2. But yeah, Chesterfield should be looking at winning that one.
Yeah, I mean, looking at Chesterfield's recent results, obviously they've been getting the results, but they haven't really done anyone by a couple of goals. So that's what I'm actually going to predict this time. I'm going to say this is the time where they really, really start to kick on. I'm going to say they win 2-0.
Okay, I mean, they could have scored a few more against us if they really wanted to last night. Speaking of Grimsby, we make the long trip to Gillingham this week, and Gillingham got nothing to play for. I mean, we've known that for quite a long time. Our playoff hopes, I think, after last night's defeat to Chesterfield, hanging on by a thread. But this is a game we absolutely have to win. I think after that one, I think if we were to lose this game, you are asking a hell of a lot now, and especially if Chesterfield were to go and beat Fleetwood. I think we will. I think we will go there and win. We'll win 2-1.
Yeah. Trying to think of anything different to say, but I basically agree with everything you just said. So I'm going to be boring and just agree 2-1.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be quite optimistic in a Grimsby sense. It feels quite odd to predict Gillingham to lose heavily at home, but I'm going to say that Grimsby have a proper reaction and win this 3-0.
Need it. Absolutely need it. Harrogate coming up against Colchester. Colchester have won their last 3 as they look to end the season pretty strongly. Of course, we've mentioned about their potential takeover of John Terry. Harrogate, their EFL safety is hanging by a thread, really. Back-to-back defeats for them. I mean, that defeat to Newport last time, a very damaging one. Relegation could come as early as this weekend, I'm led to believe. I think they have been quite decent at home performance-wise, but again, you are looking at results at this stage, and they've got a lot of ground to make up at the minute. Yeah, I think Colchester walk away 2-0 winners. I think I just see Colchester just do it. I think that's too much for them.
I think Harrogate scrap 1-1, but I don't think it's going to be a great game.
I'm actually going to give Harrogate a chance here, and maybe it's just because I really want to see a photo finish for both relegation spots. But despite Colchester's improved performances, I'm going to say Harrogate win 2-1.
Okay, big game at Meadow Lane. Notts County are looking to put their pretty disastrous 4-0 defeat to Cambridge to one side. I mean, I did point out earlier, the goals they conceded in that game were horrendous, really. And if you're a Notts County fan, you're probably not best pleased with that. Taking nothing away from Cambridge on the day, though, that they're coming up against Barnet, they'll still feel like they can still crack into the top 7. Again, you're sort of asking for them to pretty much win the rest of their 3 games and sort of pray, really. It is a big ask. And I think you get the sense that any drop points will probably see the end of that. Currently unbeaten in their last 6 games, have won back-to-back. Their last result was a late victory against Barrow. I'm going to sit on the fence for this one and go 1-1.
I think it could be a bit of a weirdly high-scoring game. Barnet seems to score a few goals recently. So I'm going to go 3-2 to Barnet.
Oh, I like that. Maybe this is just wishful thinking for me, but I am kind of hoping not to lose this one, because if we win and they lose, then I'm feeling pretty good for autos, put it that way. Plus Barnet definitely do need to win to have even the slightest chance of getting involved. Plus all of the Notts injuries as well. I'm convincing myself there. I'm going to say Barnet get it 3-1.
Oldham Athletic, Salford City. Oldham season is again pretty much done, especially after last night's defeat to Barrow. A pretty damaging one, but we have mentioned about Oldham season, the fact they could take a lot of positives from this campaign, especially the last couple of months or so. As for Salford, currently in the playoffs themselves, currently occupy 6th place, 2 points clear of Chesterfield in 7th. I think they might feel on edge a little bit. I mean, a draw and a defeat in the last 2 games. Well, if you reverse that, they lost against Crewe and they drew against Gillingham last time out. I mean, they actually drew a game. It's been quite the rarity for them this season. Oldham win it 1-0.
Yeah, I think Oldham at home just about gives them an edge. Both teams starting to stutter. So, yeah, I'll be boring, but I think it'd probably be 1-0 or 2-1. One goal to Oldham.
I think it would be very typical of Salford to just start drawing games now. So I'm going to go 1-1.
Okay, last but not least, we've got Tranmere Rovers. They're back at Prenton Park this weekend, and they've got a very informed Bristol Rovers side. 6 straight victories in the league. Of course, after that news the other day, in which Steve Evans has signed on to be their manager for next season. Massive bit of business. I like the way they did it as well, getting them onto the pitch just before the game for them to announce it. You sort of got the sense of when they announced it a day before that they were going to do that, and obviously he more than deserves that new deal, and Bristol Rovers fans will be surely delighted that he's staying for next season. Of course, if they can have anywhere near the impact that he has done over these last couple of months, they can maybe look to push up the right end of the table. After, let's be honest, it's been a very underwhelming campaign on the whole, but I'm sure we'll get into that when the season concludes. But as for Tranmere, again, it's another massive game for them. They need to win it, really, because again, they're only a point above the relegation zone now. They've got quite the task at the minute against this Bristol Rovers side, who are absolutely flying. But let's be honest, this is League Two, and if you probably think if what you think might happen will probably not happen, especially at this point of the season. Bristol Rovers 6 matches unbeaten. Tranmere struggled to buy a win for a long period of time, then goes and wins. It would be so poetic, would it? I've said all this without actually giving a score prediction. It's so tough. 1-1. 1-1.
I'm quite happy to pick against Tranmere, even though they got a result the other day. Rovers are riding high. 3-0 Rovers.
Let's let chaos reign. 4-2 Bristol Rovers.
Look, I mean, you mentioned that Chesterfield game in which Tranmere had. I know that. I mean, they drew 1-1. It's actually looking like a pretty decent point. I mean, look, we've mentioned about their lack of goal scoring. I mean, they did get that goal, their first goal, in God knows how long. It's a small catalyst, but it might be the catalyst to maybe go and kick on. But who knows? We've got to see, haven't we? Until they actually go out and win again, because the wins have been very few and far between, especially since the turn of the year. Just 2 wins since since the first day of 2026. Really, it's been a very miserable second half of the season for them. And just quickly, just mention Northampton relegation might be back on because Luton have equalised. Sorry, Luke. In that one. But that's all we've got to say, really. Luke, your brain teaser very quickly.
Right, okay, so last week's one was quite difficult, actually, or at least I thought it was quite difficult. The clue was Kyle Evans, and the answer was Cameron. So Kyle Cameron Evans, Kyle Cameron, and Cameron Evans, obviously 2 League Two players there. And which hopefully that explains how this all works. Well done to, I believe the handle was Oslatic for getting that one right. The only correct answer I saw, so obviously was a tricky one. So just to very quickly explain this before I give you the next one, you should have figured it out from that anyway, but I'll give you the first name of one League Two player and the surname of another League Two player. All you have to do is find the connecting name that completes both of those names at the same time. So I've gone for a bit of an easier one this week. Before I'm going to start being mean with the final 2. But the clue this week is your first name is Jayden, so Jayden, and the surname is Kizzy, Kizzzi. And this is a little bit of a sneaky one from me. I'll say that much, but I do think it's still an easy one. So let us know if you know the answer to that. Drop it in the comments. We'll give you a little shout out. And yeah, have fun.
Have fun indeed. Again, it's one of your naughty ones, in which I have mentioned before when you've put one of those towards.
My game, my rules.
I guess you can also say that. So yeah, you're the ringleader for that, so I can't really complain really. I guess that's all we've got time for. I know I've rambled a lot about Grimsby in the first part of this episode, Might be a little bit of chopping and changing, really. I'm not sure how much I want to go. I'll probably just leave it all in, to be honest. Depends how much I can be bothered, really. But yeah, I feel like we've got through a lot. Of course, let us know your thoughts in the comments as to what you think. Give us your score predictions, your thoughts, anything in between. We're more than happy to hear it, good or bad. Make sure you do all the usual stuff. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe. If you are new on YouTube, download the podcast wherever you get your podcast from. We're very much coming to the end of the season now, so any support will be hugely appreciated. Only a couple more games left. If you're fighting for something, try and enjoy it, or hide behind a sofa, in which I probably will be doing. That's certainly what I wanted to do yesterday. Certainly crawl into a ball after that penalty miss, and I've mentioned it again. So there you go. You get all that, but look, it's such an exciting time this part of the season, isn't it? For quite a number of teams that are still fighting for something at either end of the table. But we'll leave you for now. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back to review all the games over the weekend, and that will be coming to you probably around Monday. Again, we'll record on Sunday. But in the meantime, you've been listening to Tom Woods, you've been listening to Luke Payne, I've been Jordan Richards. This has been League 2 Lowdown, and we'll see you in the next one.